I'm Jennifer, the Inquiring Quilter. Welcome to week 1 of the Patriot Quilt Along. That's Patriot, and I'm glad to have you with me quilting along. First things first, today's episode is going to be about fabric selection, but before we get into that, I've got a couple of housekeeping things to go over. First thing, you need to get your pattern. You can get your pattern by signing up at the link in the video description. That will take you to a page where you'll get signed up to a special newsletter so I can let you know when each episode of the Quilt Along is up on YouTube. It will also get you a 30% discount off the pattern. So make sure you use the link in the video description to get the coupon code for 30% off Patriot. Next thing I need to talk about is the schedule. I have made this as easy and as stretched out as I can. We're starting this week of 4th of July here in America, and we will be ending November 11th, which is Veterans Day here in America. So I have stretched it out. Mostly it's every 2 weeks, and then you get longer periods like to make the quilt top and to finish the quilt if you're planning on doing that. And the reason I say if is because Patriot makes, I believe, a perfect quilt for Quilts of Valor. And Quilts of Valor is an organization that helps to honor American veterans by giving them a special patriotic quilt. It's a great charity. I've had the privilege of watching several presentation ceremonies, and they are very moving. So I'm hopeful that you will make a quilt top or a finished quilt and then donate it to your local Quilt of Valor chapter. Now, if you don't happen to have one near you, that's fine. I will be making arrangements for you to be able to ship your top or your finished quilt to an address here and to my local Quilt of Valor president. So don't worry about that. If you have a desire to donate, I want to make that as easy as possible. And I would appreciate it because I think it's a very good charity. Next thing I'd like to talk about are my sponsors for this quilt along. I'd like to thank all of them because they have generously donated prizes, which you can win by either completing a quilt top or a quilt. Since I'm talking about prizes, I might as well get into the details. If you finish just a quilt top by the week of November 11th, you will get one chance to win a prize. If you finish the quilt itself, you'll get 2 chances. And I'm going to be giving away 2 prize packages. Now, let me talk about my sponsors and some of what they're giving away. The first sponsor, which should come as no surprise since I am a former Island Batik ambassador, is Island Batik. This quilt was made with Island Batiks in a collection that's called Heartland. But I am getting 2 fat quarter collections to give away from Island Batik, and that's, an entire collection. And it's from their upcoming red, white, and blue collection that's called Red, White, and Blooms, I believe. So you would be like amongst the first to have that fat quarter collection. I don't have it right now because it's not available in stores, so that's why you would be amongst the first. It would be arriving about the time our quilt along ends in stores. It would be arriving in the December time frame in quilt stores. So after I show you pictures of it, if you like it, then that's how you can get your hands on it. Right now what you could do is put a bug in the ear of your local quilt store and tell them to order the collection, Red, White, and Blooms. So I'll have 2 fat quarter collections from Island Batik. Thank you, Island Batik. I'm also receiving a queen size quilt bat of Hobbs 8020, which is one of their premium quilt bats. So Hobbs has generously donated a queen size quilt for the first place winner. They are also donating a quilt for me to use to finish my Quilt of Valor, so thank you, Hobbs. That was very generous of you to do that. Next is Aurifil, and I'm really excited about this. Aurifil is donating 2 prizes, so you'll have 2 chances to win something from Aurifil. And for the first prize is what they call their Necessities collection, and that is a collection of 4 of their 50-weight larger spools in various colors, from white, gray, beige, and black. So perfect for piecing and also for quilting, of course, and that's why they call it the Necessities pack. And then in the second place winners prize package, Aurifil is also donating a red, a white, and a blue spool of thread in their smaller size. So that will be available for you to win if you get the second place. Let's see. So that's Island Batik, Aurifil, and Hobbs. I also have a $50 coupon for Hancock's of Paducah. If you follow me, you know that I visited them last year, and I just love that store. And this coupon will be available to use in their store. And let's see, and that would be part of the first place package. And also in the first place package, I have a long armor. Her name is Amy, and she's from the Uncommon Bobbin. And she is generously donating a 50% discount for her quilting services to the winner. And you can use it to have your Quilt of Valor quilted, your Patriot quilt quilted, or you can choose any quilt you want. Her quilting is wonderful. I'll put a link in the description to all of the sponsors so that you can go check them out. Amy has a very generous pricing structure, so she charges you just for the quilting per inch and also for the cost of the batting. She does not charge you for thread, which a lot of long armors do, and also she will pay to ship it back to you. So very, very generous, and the first place winner will get a 50% discount. By the way, Amy has also extended a discount to anyone who is participating in this quilt along. So you can get 15% off the cost of having her long arm your quilt, a single quilt, whichever one you choose to have. So again, pretty darn cool. And more details about how you would be able to get that discount will be forthcoming. Let's see, who else? Oh, also I want to mention another long armer who volunteered to quilt my quilt. So that's very nice. I went ahead and accepted her offer. Her name is Deb of the Blueberry Owl. She will be quilting my quilt, and that way when I donate it, it won't be something that Quilt of Valor will have to go and arrange to have quilted. So I was really excited to have her do that. And she's really excited about not only Quilt of Valor as a charity, because that's what I'm making my quilt for, but also the Patriot Quilt. So that's pretty cool of Deb to step up and volunteer for that. There are a few other sponsors that we're still working some details out, so I may be adding to that. So be sure again to follow along with the Quilt Along, and also sign up for the newsletter so you get all the news. I did mention earlier that the schedule is pretty easy. The next time we will be meeting will be on July 20th, and that's where we'll tackle the first unit in making the blocks, and that will be the flying geese, which are here and here and here and here. So we'll be making flying geese. That's the first thing we'll be doing. And if you want to see the entire schedule, there is a page on my website that is devoted to this quilt along. So it'll have all the links to all the various YouTubes and all the different weekly bits of information that I'm going to be providing. To get to this particular page, it will be linked in the video description. So just look for that at the bottom of the video. So now let's get to the actual topic today, which is fabric selection. I may be biased, but I think it is a pretty patriotic quilt. So I'm thinking red, white, and blue, and that's what I'm going to be using. However, if you say wanted to make this for a child and maybe use really bright colors that have nothing to do with a flag, but just really bright colors for your stars and for your stripes, I think that would be really cool. So that's another thing that you can think of for Patriot. With the fabrics, when you look at the back of the pattern, it lists what yardage you will be needing. This is also, you could use back quarters for Patriot if you want. You could also just pull your scraps and use that. When considering whether or not you want to use fat quarters, some of the fabric requirements are for the borders. So for those, I would just kind of leave them at yardage. So let me get you the lowdown. And I'll also have this information in the description as well. Red 1 is for the corners here of the snowballs. So if you wanted to have them all be the same, you could use the yardage that's listed on the pattern. Otherwise, you would need 5 fat quarters if you were going to do all the red, which is here and here. So the yardage that's listed on the pattern for red 1 is basically all the red. The red 2 is for this border, this skinny little red border here. So red 2, I would leave it as yardage, and red 1 is all the rest of the reds that you see. So if you want to do that as scrappy, you again would need 5 fat quarters. Blue 1 is for the snowball center here. And you could, as an idea, you could change that out to a different color. It could be red. It could be red and blue fabric. It could be whatever you want it to be. It could be a lighter fabric. It could be more whitish background. And however, if you decide that you would like to make your snowballs different colors, may have them be scrappy, you would need about 3 fat quarters for that. Blue 2 is for the outer part of the star, what you would consider the background of the star. And again, there's yardage listed on the back of the pattern, but if you decide to make the those stars, the background of the stars scrappy, then you only need 2 fat quarters to do that. Blue 3 is the pinwheels here, which you can't tell too much on this particular sample. In the pattern, you can see that I suggest a lighter blue for the pinwheels. You could do a super dark blue for the pinwheels if you want. The pinwheels themselves will only take about a fat quarter. And then blue 4 is this outer border. So again, I would just leave it as yardage for blue 4. White, you can do that as a scrappy. The amount given is for all the white that you see, the background of the pinwheels, the star points, and the, I call them wavy stripes. So I'm probably going to be doing that, but if I choose to make my whites scrappy throughout, you'd need about 6 to 7 fat quarters. It is possible to cut this quilt using AccuQuilt, and the instructions for doing that are inside the pattern. So if you want to use your AccuQuilt, open up the pattern and look on the first page below the cutting chart, and it will tell you how much additional yardage you may need for some of the colors, and also what size what dies you're going to need with your cutter to cut this out. If you decide to use fat quarters and your AccuQuilt, all of the amounts that I just gave you are totally fine. However, for the red 1, which is basically all the reds except for the border. So for the reds, you would need 7 fat quarters to use an AccuQuilt instead of 5. And then if you decided you wanted to make the whites scrappy, you're going to need closer to 9 fat quarters for the whites as opposed to the 7 fat quarters. Again, for both of those, the red one and the white, you will need just a little bit more, even if you're using yardage, if you choose to to cut it out with AccuQuilt, which is what I'm planning on doing. So, yay! On the back of the pattern are a couple of extra samples of the quilt in other fabric collections. This one is called Heartland by Island Batik, but on the back of the pattern, the quilt is shown in Stateside by Moda, which is currently out and available, and also shown in All American by Windham Fabrics. So that gives you an idea if you want to use a collection, what it might look like. And if that's what you choose to do, there will be a link in the description, but there's also a notation on the back of the pattern in case you forget, for a free download that gives you the actual fabric SKUs for each of the specific fabrics I used in those collections and in this collection, so that should you want to make an exact duplicate, you'll be able to search online for those exact SKUs and purchase them, or go to your local quilt store and have them pull those particular bolts for you. So let's see, we've talked about the getting your pattern and that there's a 30% discount, that the schedule is fairly laid back, but then I have a page on my blog, on my website that lists the full schedule, what my sponsors are and how to win a prize, and fabric selection. Just one more thing before we get off fabric selection, let me show you what I'm going to be using, at least what I think I'm going to be using. What I did, because I am making this for Quilts of Valor, is I went to my stash, to my section of patriotic fabrics. Yes, I collect fabrics. I don't know about you, but I do. and I sort them into different collections, and one of those is patriotic, so that when I'm making a quilt like this, I've got something to start with. So I went through and I found this, which is a much older fabric, but I really love it. It's kind of wavy flags. I use this as my starting point, or my inspiration, as it were. And I'm probably going to use it for this border on the outside. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm going to wait till I get the center done and see how this looks. But anyway, use this as my inspiration. I went and pulled a bunch of reds. So let me just... So as you can see, I went from bright reds to more subdued reds. And when you're doing scrappy, the more the merrier. So if you're not quite sure they're all going to go together, just throw some more in, and that will make the eye will go, wow, I love that. So this is what I've chosen for my reds, and I'm going to make the reds throughout all very scrappy. For the snowballs, I had originally picked a navy fabric with stars on it. I really loved it, and that's what I was going to put here. But I couldn't really seem to find other things that I liked from my stash to go with that. So I changed my mind, and I think I'm going to go with this dot, which is bright. So my snowballs are going to be fairly bright. And then sitting next to them with the stars, I've decided to use something, again, bright for my background. And then I'm going to put this as my pinwheel. I don't know if you can see it, but it's really cool. And it kind of has a bit of a sparkle to it as well. So these two, this is going to make my star blocks. And then this is going to be the snowball. So let me show you what it looked like. Here's the stars, and then there's the snowball, and then I'm going to have various reds everywhere. And then I'll probably choose several whites to make it scrappy, but I didn't bother to pull those just yet. So those are my collection of fabrics. Oh, and by the way, I would love for you to share your fabric selection on social media, and if that's Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, that's fine. And then in the text, you know, where you write stuff, put a hashtag, and well, all that is the £, and then Patriot QAL for quilt along. So £, Patriot QAL. And then also, so that I'll know that you posted something, put, you tag me, and how you do that is you put an @ symbol, you know, it looks an A with a little circle thing around it, followed by Inquiring Quilter with no spaces. And that will help me see that you've posted, and I'd love to see the fabrics that you guys are choosing. By doing the hashtag Patriot QAL, other people, you can go, I don't know if you know this, but you can go to Facebook, and where it says search, you can type in Patriot QAL, and everything that's been marked with that hashtag will come up. So you'll be able to see what other people are choosing too. So please play along, and let's put our stuff out on the internet with the Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. Now, I was going to talk about cutting. After you make your fabric selection, before you start cutting everything, because we'll get into cutting and sewing next time, a couple of just things to think about. In the pattern, you're going to be making some flying geese, and you're going to be making some half square triangles of various sizes. The way the pattern shows you how to make flying geese is with a method called 4 at a time. Sometimes people call it the fast flying geese method. Sometimes people call it the no waste method. But it's the one that results in 4 flying geese. Now, some people have a love-hate relationship with making flying geese. Like, I make them, but they never turn out right. Well, I have, again, a link in the description for a free cutting guide for flying geese, for all the different methods of flying geese. And should you choose to do what the pattern says and make them 4 at a time, you can cut them larger and have a little bit more wiggle room. So if you're having trouble getting them to come out the right size, you can use my cutting guide to tell you how much larger you should be cutting the, in this case, the white part and the blue part for the flying geese. There are also other methods for making flying geese, and sometimes people prefer those. I have a lot of those, I've covered a lot of those methods on YouTube. So my advice is shoot over to YouTube, or well, you're probably there now. Check out on my channel all the flying geese video, and watch those and see which method seems to make the most sense to you. And then download my cutting guide, and that will help you make any adjustments that you might need to make in order to make the appropriate size flying geese for this pattern. Likewise, half square triangles. I have covered lots of different ways of making half square triangles on YouTube. And the way that is going to be used in the pattern is the one that most people use. It's the 2 at a time method. If you, again, would rather you make them slightly larger than normal and then trim them down even further, that's fine. I have a special cutting guide for half square triangles that you can download, and I'll put a link in this description, but it's also in all of my videos for half square triangles, or the flying geese guide is in all the flying geese video descriptions. Download that, and it'll give you the math that you need to be able to cut your fabric appropriately for Patriot. In the Patriot instructions, it will tell you what size the flying geese are going to end up. It will tell you what size the half square triangles are going to end up. So use my cutting guides to say, okay, I want this size flying geese. What size do I need to cut, blah, 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 in order to use this particular method. Oh, speaking of flying geese, I forgot to say, there is a method that is really accurate and super fast, because it's called the one seam method. The thing I don't like too much about it is it results in a folded goose, which is, the goose is this part. It results in a folded goose, so you kind of need to stitch those down. But you'll have perfect points, and you'll have it turn out to be the right size. So if you want to go, when you're checking out the flying geese method, just make sure you check that one out too. And if that's the one you choose to use for Patriot, again, download my guide. It'll tell you what size fabrics, how to cut your fabrics to make the appropriate size that you need for Patriot. So I believe that's it. A lot of links in the video description, so make sure you go check them out. Also, all of this information is on my website in a special post. So if you would rather read it all together than listen to a video, you can do that as well. And yeah, I'll link to that at the bottom of this video description as well. Well, that's it. Welcome to week 1 of Patriot. I hope you're excited, because I'm super excited not only to be making such a wonderful quilt for charity, but also, you know, all the prizes I've been able to line up for you guys. So thanks for participating. I appreciate you quilting along with me, and I'll be posting my fabric selections so that you can see them. So look for them out on the internet, and I'll be posting all my steps as I go along, and I hope you will too, because it's nothing more fun than making a quilt together. Thank you again for joining me, and I'm Jennifer, and see you on YouTube. Bye.